Hey everybody, and welcome back to another total random review for Star Trek Discovery, Episode 7, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. So, like in every other one of my videos, I would like to just take this opportunity to say that there are spoilers ahead, lots of them. So if you don't like to have things ruined for you, please stop watching right now. If you don't care, continue and enjoy. Also, I just want to point out that my synopsis this time around might be a little different. I'm going to start off by saying that this episode involves a temporal loop. So there's a lot of things that are repeated that I'm not going to mention. So this is a temporal loop episode, so if my synopsis feels a little weird, that's probably why. I'm trying to make it work. But anyways, so my initial thoughts for this episode was that it was pretty damn good. I enjoyed this episode very much. One of my favorite TNG episodes has got to be Cause and Effect, where the Enterprise D is caught up in a causality time loop, where they continually get destroyed and then come back, destroyed and come back until they figure out how to break the loop. One of my favorite episodes, so I was very excited to see another temporal loop episode here. I guess the only disappointing thing is that they did a temporal loop episode, so they're not really being original, but that's okay. I enjoyed it very much. Probably my favorite episode of Discovery so far. So with that said, let's move on to the synopsis. The episode starts off with Burnham making a log. In it, she states that things are starting to look up for her. She enjoys her job, and she is making friends. She also touches on how social interactions are awkward for her, and that she will be putting it all to the test because tonight Discovery is having a party. Burnham walks in and sees that everyone is enjoying themselves, especially Cadet Tilly, who is totally drunk at this point. Tilly walks up to Burnham and asks what the deal is with Ash, pointing directly at him. Tilly states that Michael and Ash have been on 2 dates so far, and Burnham quickly points out that they were not dates, but work-related. Ash steps up and makes a speech honoring the men and women currently serving who have given up a part of themselves but continues to don the uniform, and for the thousands that have lost their lives. Afterwards, he walks up to Burnham and tries to start a conversation with her, but both Burnham and Tyler get called to the bridge. On their way to the bridge, they bump into Dr. Culber and Lieutenant Stamets, literally. Stamets drops what he was carrying, and Burnham apologizes. That's when he questions why she was apologizing and gives her a big hug. He's not quite himself since he started taking over for the tardigrade. But they exchange a few more words and have an awkward moment and then head to the bridge. Upon arriving at the bridge, we see that the Discovery has come into contact with a Gormagander, which is a space whale. They are on the endangered species list, so Burnham points that out, and also points out that they are duty-bound to take the creature aboard and deliver it to a xenological facility. Lorca gives her the okay. Burnham heads to the shuttle bay. They beam the creature aboard and start conducting scans. The scans reveal abnormal readings inside the creature. Then suddenly, the creature's mouth opens up and a humanoid walks out, wearing what seems to be an Andorian EV suit, and opens fire. Burnham takes cover and contacts the bridge, sounding an intruder alert. Lorca orders to lock down the surrounding area, and they watch as the intruder shoots down all that get in his way. Lorca addresses the intruder to drop their weapons, and that this all ends now. The humanoid removes their helmet to reveal Harry Mudd. Lorca was shocked to see him. Mudd explains that he should not have left him behind at the Klingon prison, that he vowed revenge. He explains that he was going to kill Lorca as many times as he can. Lorca explains that there is no way that Mudd was going to succeed. Mudd agrees and claims that he's got all the data he needs to give it another go. Lorca looks confused, not understanding Mudd, and then Mudd holds up a device and activates it, which causes numerous explosions to happen all over the ship, and then the Discovery is completely destroyed. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is a time loop episode, so The ship's back. In this time loop, we find ourselves back at the party, and no one seems to realize they all just died. This time, they head to the turbolift without a sign of Stamets or Kolber in the area. That is, until they were about to step onto the lift. Stamets comes running down the corridor calling for Tyler and Burnham. He explains that they need to listen to him, that they have all been here before. And then Kolber catches up to Stamets and tells him that he is ranting and tries to take him away. Burnham and Tyler board the turbolift, and Stamets points out that it all starts with the Gormagander. Both Tyler and Burnham look confused and head to the bridge. Along the way, Burnham explains to Tyler what a Gormagander is. They arrive at the bridge, and Saru identifies the creature as a Gormagander. Both Tyler and Burnham recognize that Stamets may be onto something, so instead of following procedure, they both recommend not taking the creature on board. Saru points out that it is their duty to do so, and so Lorca orders to bring it aboard. Ash recommends having a security presence there, to which Lorca agrees, and both Burnham and Tyler head to the shuttle bay. They beam it aboard, and Ash gets his phaser ready. Burnham walks up to it and begins scans on the creature. The scan reveals that there is an odd energy pattern, as if someone has activated a transporter, and then suddenly the black alert is sounded. Turns out, whoever was in there, probably Mudd, beamed into engineering and activated the spore drive. Burnham and Ash are ordered to get to engineering right away, where they find Harry Mudd at the controls. Mudd has a few words with Tyler and asks how the spore drive works. They both refuse to answer, and Tyler even takes a shot at him. It is stopped by a containment field that Mudd had set up. He explains that they cannot stop him and that he has got control of the computer. Mudd suddenly gets shot in the back by Stamets. He explains that they have all been through this several times and that he has yet to figure out a way that ends with them not dying. The core is about to breach, and Stamets says he'll be seeing them very soon, and the ship explodes. In the next time loop, we find ourselves back at the party. Stamets walks in looking for Burnham, but they have already arrived on the bridge. Everything happens as before, and so Burnham heads to the shuttle bay. On her way to the shuttle bay, she bumps into Stamets. He explains that they have no time, that the ship is caught up in some kind of temporal loop, where the ship keeps exploding. Burnham says that she needs to take him to sickbay, obviously not believing in what he is saying. Stamets starts to quote back to her, word for word, what she is telling him at that instant. She starts to believe him, and they walk off, with Stamets explaining on the way. Back on the bridge, Lorca is called to sickbay. It's a trap because Mudd is waiting for him on the other side of the door. He holds the captain at phaser point and demands that he take Mudd to an area of the ship that he has yet to gain access to. Lorca doesn't comply, and Mudd responds with a demonstration as to how much he was in control of Discovery by calling for an auto-destruct and the computer complying. We learn through Stamets that Mudd is using some kind of device that can reverse time by 30 minutes. We also learn that Stamets' ability to recall past loops may have to do with the tardigrade DNA that is in him. He explains that he cannot do things alone. He needs help. He asks Burnham for a secret, something that he can reveal to her in another loop to help speed up her trusting him. She leans in and whispers something. Stamets pauses and apologizes, and then Burnham backs off. Mudd and Lorca walk into Lorca's research room. He explains that there is nothing here for him. Mudd sees all the goodies in the room and picks up a weapon lying on a table. He asks if it melts brains. Lorca explains that if he kills a Starfleet captain, that he would go away for good. Mudd asks him if he knows how many times he has had the pleasure of killing Lorca. We are gifted with a montage of Lorca deaths, ending with Mudd beaming Lorca into space, and we watch him suffocate to death. After the montage, he explains he has killed Lorca 53 times. He looks at the device on his wrist and notices that they are out of time. He says that he will figure out how the drive works eventually, and that he has all the time in the world to do so. He then picks up that weapon from earlier and says that we still don't know what this does, and so he points it at Lorca and kills him for the 54th time. In the next time loop, after speaking to Stamets, Burnham dances with Tyler during the party, and she starts to talk to him about Mudd. She explains what is going on, that Mudd wants to sell the ship to the Klingons. She explains that she likes him, which is why Stamets wanted her to speak to Tyler instead of him. They share a kiss. They get called to the bridge, but ignore it. And she asks if Mudd ever mentioned if he ever talked about having access to equipment that could pull off what he's currently doing. He explains that he was able to rob a bank on Beta Z by memorizing security patterns. After speaking to Tyler, she realizes that Mudd has access to a time crystal. They go on the hunt for Mudd. On the bridge, loud classical music starts to play. Mudd steps onto the bridge and admits to Lorca that he is getting tired of all this. The captain approaches him forcefully, and Mudd gets the computer to beam him to the brig. He then holds up something he got from Lorca's research lab. Dark matter that has been condensed into a sphere and weaponized. And he threatens an officer with it. Just before Burnham, Stamets, and Tyler rush onto the bridge. Tyler opens fire, but all he hits is a force field. Mudd throws the dark matter at Tyler, hitting him in the chest, and we see Tyler hit the ground and disintegrate before our eyes. Mudd was about to take out Saru, but not before Stamets jumps in and shows that he was the missing piece to make the spore drive work all along. Mudd beams himself and Stamets to engineering. Burnham and Tilly scan the creature in the shuttle bay and discover that a small ship with a much bigger time crystal was inside the belly. This doesn't help, though, because they have no control over the ship's vital systems, such as transporters, to beam the crystal out. Burnham decides that there is only one way to convince Mudd to restart time once again. Burnham approaches Mudd in Lorca's ready room and claims that she can offer him something more valuable to the Klingons than discovery. He scoffs at her, and she reveals that she is Michael Burnham, the killer of T'Kuvma, the second coming of Kahless. He asks what is in it for her, and she says Lieutenant Tyler. Mudd points out that he is dead, to which Michael replies, "Not for long." She grabs a dark matter ball off of Lorca's desk and swallows it. She quickly disintegrates before Mudd's eyes. Mudd, furious over this, decides to restart time once again. In the next and final time loop, we see Mudd expertly maneuvering around Discovery undetected. We also see Stamets, Burnham, and Tyler approach Lorca. When Mudd gets to the bridge, without even looking at him, Lorca welcomes Captain Mudd to the bridge. He gets up and offers him his seat. Mudd asks what the heck is going on, but quickly realizes that Stamets has been informing his crew about what is going on. Lorca explains that he does not want a repeat of the USS Buran, which is why he is offering the ship, Stamets and Burnham, in exchange for the lives of his crew. Mudd eventually agrees and contacts the Klingons. He does not start the time loop again, so the device on his wrist disintegrates. The Klingons arrive, and Mudd orders the computer to commence transport of the Klingons once he arrives to the transporter room. He leaves with Stamets and Burnham. Along the way, Stamets realizes that Mudd hasn't been trying to get back with his beloved Stella. He's been running away from her. Her father, which Stamets points out, is a weapons dealer. Mudd points out that he never told him about Stella's father, and Burnham points out that the ship's library is not a critical system, and they looked her up. Apparently, they have been looking for Mudd for a while now. Her father even put out an award for him. Tyler appears behind them with phaser drawn and adds that he left her and took her dowry. While distracted, Burnham disarms Mudd. Mudd points out that this changes nothing, that the Klingons are here, and that the deal with Lorca is off. Tyler chimes in and says that the Klingons aren't coming. He rewired the captain's chair, which Burnham again points out that the chair was not a critical system. He didn't send his coordinates to the Klingons. He actually sent his coordinates to Stella and her father. They walk into the transporter room, and the transporter activates, and we see the much-talked-about Stella and her father. He tries to sweet talk her, explain that he had a rocky past and that he couldn't wed her until he had taken care of his image. She replies that she knew what kind of a guy Mud was from the very beginning and didn't care. The father pipes in that he would do anything for his daughter, even if it meant Mud marrying her. The father then adds that he does not want to be in debt to Starfleet and asks what can be done to repay them. Tyler asks that he simply keeps Mud at Stella's side and out of Starfleet's way. They agree and beam back to their ship with Mud. The episode ends with Burnham and Tyler talking about how Stamets had mentioned how they danced and both liked it. They walk onto the turbolift. She explains that what she is experiencing is complicated and strange, and he replies that he isn't going anywhere. So that was the episode, everybody. Now let's go over some of the things I noted. Not much. There was nothing bad in this episode, at least in my opinion. There was nothing here that broke canon. There was nothing here that really added to canon or reinforced previous canon or anything like that, like last week's episode with Sarek and Burnham and Spock. There was nothing wrong with this episode. There was nothing new. There was no callbacks to anything, except for Stella, I guess. There isn't really much to note. This was just a really good episode. I enjoyed it. I had zero issues with it. Yeah, there's not really much to note other than the fact that this was a great episode. Wow, that was easy. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you disagree with me? Am I being too kind with this episode? Am I suffering from Stockholm syndrome? Am I just learning to like this series? You let me know. Let me know what you guys think. I think this episode was great. But maybe somebody out there might not agree with me. So let's move on to the rating of this episode. I'm going to give this episode, believe it or not, my first ever 5 out of 5. I wasn't joking when I said one of my favorite TNG episodes is Cause and Effect. I love that episode. And this felt like that episode. Sure, it should lose points because it wasn't an original idea, but it was still fun. I enjoyed it very much. So I guess my rating's a little bit biased here. If you are a fan of Cause and Effect, I'm sure you're going to be a fan of this episode. So my rating, once again, is 5 out of 5. Alright, everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, you can give it a thumbs down. If you like my content and want to see more of it, click on that subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the bell notification button so that you'll be notified when I upload new stuff. And as always, please feel free to check out my other content. Alright, everybody, see you next week. Live long and prosper.